turn to other matters ahead of the sport, which is coming up in about 5 minutes. In the past few months, humanists in East Yorkshire have discussed a number of issues, including assisted dying and humanist chaplaincy. Well, at tomorrow's meeting, instead of a guest speaker, members are invited to get on their soapbox and choose the subject that's up for discussion. Tim Stevenson's the secretary of the Hull and East Riding Humanist Group and has been telling Judy about the idea.
You think of places like Hyde Park Corner in London, Speaker's Corner, and even now you can go there and you have people standing up on their little platforms and giving their views on politics, on religion, and all sorts of issues, maybe environmental issues. And I'm not really keen on the idea of going into the street and talking about my views, but the idea of going to in a pub and letting people have a maximum of 10 minutes to talk about what they think is relevant. I think it's quite an enjoyable and entertaining evening.
Well, of course, on BBC Radio Humberside, for some years, we took exactly that idea of giving people a platform on the radio to air their views on a radio soapbox. So it's basically giving the people the chance to air their views on something of their choosing, is it?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, hopefully people will pick a subject that's just kind of interest to people. I mean, you could stand there and talk about how to get Hull City back into the Premiership. Probably not appropriate for our meeting. Probably going to be something to do with maybe later what the government are doing, perhaps, whether you believe in whether we should be building nuclear power stations or something like that, something relevant to bigger issues in society.
In the time that you have been meeting regularly, what are the kind of issues that you do know interest people who say that, I'm a humanist?
Well, the most successful meeting we've had was a meeting we had in January where we had somebody from Dignity in Dying, who's a charity that promotes the idea of a change in the law for assisted dying. Basically, if people are suffering terrible illnesses at the moment, the law prevents them from taking their own life, or people assisting them to have a good death. And that was a very popular meeting. In February, we had somebody from Leeds University who's a humanist chaplain. You often hear about religious chaplains in hospitals and universities, but increasingly there are people who are humanist chaplains fulfilling a role in a voluntary capacity. And then in March we've had somebody talking about transhumanism. Now, transhumanism is the idea of using technology to improve human life. You think of ideas like having pacemakers in people with heart problems, or extending people's lives. In theory, there's some people think that in theory you could extend people's lives to hundreds of years, and so this raises all sorts of ethical issues to whether we want that to happen, whether if you could live for an extended period of time, whether that would be good for society.
So if you get your 10 minutes on the soapbox, what will you be holding forth about?
Well, I think something that's interesting me, you see all the problems in Japan at the moment with the nuclear power stations, and I think, so nuclear power is very unpopular at the moment, but I think with all the energy problems we have at the moment, I think nuclear power is still the way to go. So that would be kind of controversial, and so that's always going to have some interesting discussions after that.
There we are. Tim Stevenson, secretary of the Hull and East Riding Humanist Group. There's an opportunity for members to get on their soapbox tomorrow, Monday the 18th, when the group meets at 7:30 upstairs at the Old White Hart pub in Hull. Now, you see, why couldn't we do soapbox from a pub in Hull? That would have been a good one.